passion that we learn, we were born with it.
Something that is like that one passionate thing. You're like, man, I want to do this still.
Yeah, I love Nat Geo. I love nature. I love showing people the beauty of nature. I think we're so disconnected from it today because we're all in big cement block cities. That's dramatic, but a lot of people live in the big block cities. And I think we're lacking that groundedness, that nature that God provided us with. So I want to do a 5-part series on earth, wind, fire, water, air. And I want to tap into maybe a 5-part documentary series that shows people the importance of it. Not a doomsday, like the climate change, the world is ending. There's too much of that in the world. I want to show the positive and what we can do as humans to make little changes in our lives that could make big impacts. That's my big goal. But I'm waiting on the timing. You know, I trust that it's...
Just so you know, when we go to the Buffalo River, you'll be going to the cleanest river in North America. And you can still drink the water directly from the river because it's all spring-fed. Everything, there's no parasites and bacteria and all that kind of stuff. So it's
I did not know that.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you drink it, you'll be okay. Just
you can drink the water right out of the river. And now, if you're tubing with a bunch of people,
drink at the
top.
Upriver.
Don't be down river. Because I promise you, they ain't getting out to pee. Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
No standing behind the trees.
It's one of the cleanest. I think it's may still be the cleanest river in North America, and it's incredible. Mm-hmm. And it's all spring fed and fed by the creeks and stuff like that. And it's now it's very cold.
Oh yeah, is it?
Yeah,
like the Arctic Ocean cold, because I've been in that.
I don't think it's that cold. Well, it would have been a couple weeks ago probably.
Yeah. What happened? It got cold out here out of nowhere.
We had a cold winter this winter, and we had a couple of snaps where it got pretty dang cold.
It was like 46 degrees last night.
I feel like she's already done her water part though when she swam with orcas.
That's true.
I'll still do.
I love water. Part of the documentary is done.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to film a lot of it. I wanted to just go and experience
missed
it first.
Opportunity.
I
guess you have to do it again.
So that's also what I think in my mind. Is this going to be a missed opportunity? I ask myself that. If I don't go, or I don't do this one thing, or I don't contribute to this, am I going to regret it? Am I going to feel like I had a missed opportunity? The answer is yes. It's a no-brainer.
FOMO. We've talked about that.
I have FOMO.
I get that. I tell my wife all the time, I was like, okay, I really need to think about this. Mm-hmm. Now, if I don't go, it's guaranteed that there's no chance for me to advance in anything. Even when I was doing the speak off, she had sent that thing to me 2 or 3 times. She's like, you need to go do this. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I was like, and I really, just so you know, like I had heard of Grant Cardone, but I didn't like know who he was. And I think a lot of people were like the one Jay, what was his name? Jay DeHaan.
Oh yeah, Jay.
That guy was offended that I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really know that much about him. I mean, he was on that undercover billionaire show or something like that. I was like, I don't really know. He's like, what? Have you not been through 10X stages? Have you not been through this? I'm like, no. I was like, should I have been? He's like, well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I've been through all of them, stages on demand, this and that. I'm like.
And you're at the same level as he is. Yeah. You're both in that same room.
I was like, and well, then he tried to get me to pay $10,000. Love you, Jay, but you did try to get me to pay $10,000 to be your friend, and I can't do that for you.
Did you talk yourself out of going to the event first, or were you?
No, I didn't talk myself out of going. I was like, I don't want to go do that. I said that's probably some kind of thing, this and that. So I was like, I'm not going to go. And a couple more other people sent it to me, and I was like, finally, I was like, all right, I'll do it. And then, of course, I go in there and it says you can, I thought it was free. And then it's like, oh, it's for free. But you may not get a chance. So you have to pay $97. And I was like, all right, click funnel, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I went into that, and I ended up doing it. And I actually ended up winning my way into the workshop.
Okay.
And that wasn't the golden ticket part. It was because, they did a thing on the one I was on where the people got to vote on who would be in the next round or whatever. And so because of that, they gave me a free thing to the workshop, which was great. Then I got to the workshop and they tried to sell me a $50,000 membership or whatever to the thing. Speakers on demand and all this other stuff. You know all about it. You've been there before.
They have good marketing.
He used to work with Pete, right?
Oh, you did? Very cool.
Yeah. And so, but met so many great people. And when I tell the story now, I'm like, listen, I had no clue what I was getting into the middle of. I was like, but then I got there and I met so many great people, like you included, that it was worth whatever money I spent just because I went and found so many like-minded people who want to better themselves, who have great businesses like David Williams, who dude's, what is he, 8+ figures a year, that he's out there knocking down and taking his money and doing great things with it. Like he created his own reality show. I don't know if you saw this on David. It's called The Great American Getaway or something like that, where he takes a family and it's a cop, and he doesn't really get to see his son play baseball because the shift that he's on as a cop always interferes with when his son is playing the baseball game. And so he goes and puts together this whole deal where he sends them on a vacation, all this, and then he ends up flying them up to Iowa to go to the Field of Dreams. Aww. And right before they leave, they're like, hey, unfortunately your dad's got to work. He's not going to be able to go. But you're going to get to go be on the Field of Dreams and, and play baseball in there and everything else. Well, then when they're up there, the one guy overthrows the ball and it goes in the cornfield, and the dad comes walking out in his baseball uniform.
Stop it.
And I started crying like a big baby. And the son just goes running up to him and hugs him.
Oh,
and you could tell that their son really had no clue that his dad was going to be there, which, he was like 9. But they really pulled that off because I got emotional. I was like, dang, they really did it,
It worked.
But I met so many great people that it made it worth the time, worth the money. Because, you think about it, it's like, oh, it only cost you $97. Well, it cost me $97 plus a plane ticket, plus a hotel, an Airbnb for the entire week, all that other stuff. You end up spending $2,000 or $3,000 pretty quick. And then I got down there and started meeting people like, oh, yeah, I've already done $50,000 on Stages on Demand and Signature Talk, and then I spent another, such and such on this. And I just did another round of something. I was like, what do y'all do for a living again? Can you come pay my bills, or is this all going on credit cards? I need to know.
Yeah. Grant does a good job of speaking to the mindset of people. Yeah. He's like, what's your mindset? Do you want that? So he's good at the marketing part. Got to give him a lot of credit.
Well, and I have to give a lot to Pete and them. They knew how to go in there and sell it. Of course, with me, they're like, don't you want to do this? I'm like, I do, but not $50,000 worth bad. Yeah. I said, I'd rather invest that in a piece of some kind of property or something that I can, I said, $50,000, I can go buy you, 10, 12 acres over in Perry County. So,
yeah, I loved your speech too, because you came out with your overalls and your whole thing was overall. It really was great.
Hey, listen, I made that business up the night before.
No, you did not.
I swear to God.
I tell everybody about your business. I didn't know you made it up.
No, I made it up because I didn't even know when I first got there. I thought I was just coming to speak. Now I speak quite a bit.
Yeah.
And normally I just tell my story, and I'm part of the entertainment and whatever, and I'm an inspirational story. Like, hey, this guy lost 200 pounds and he got a record deal with Toby Keith and blah, blah, blah. And as you would say, when you're not trying to pitch a business, it's just, I'm just telling you all these things that I've been able to accomplish. Now I've always put a spin on it and saying, because this is true, not really a spin, but whenever I went to Biggest Loser, I thought I was going out to Biggest Loser to be on TV. I was like, oh, this would be a great opportunity for me to get more people, more fans, and all this other stuff.
You didn't know you had to do some work.
And no, I knew I was going to do the work. It wasn't that. It's just like, it was when I got out there that I realized, like, all of my life I had been trying to go out there and accomplish these things so that I could look at people and say, I told you I was good enough. I told you I was worthy. I told you I could do it. And my mindset shifted whenever I was out there and became, instead of being I told you so, it's look, you can too. And so instead of me being like the exception, I wanted to be the reality that you could do it too. If this 500-pound guy from Perry County, Tennessee, that grew up, getting the crap kicked out of him by his stepdad and watched his mom put a gun to her head and all these other things that I went through can do it, then there's no excuses of why you can't do it.
Bingo.
So my hope was that I could be that example, and I didn't get that before. I was just doing it to prove to everybody, like, I told you I was good enough to get that girl. I told you I was good enough to make the team. I told you I was good enough. But as my stepdad would sit there and tell me every day, excuse my language, but he'd be like, you're a fat, worthless piece of shit motherfucker. I hope you die. Literally sitting there saying to me, I hope you die.
It's the most cuss words I've ever heard you say in one night.
I normally don't cuss too much.
I have that effect on people.
But I'm just saying that's the kind of stuff he would sit there and tell me every day that you're not. Now, on the flip side, when he wasn't cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, we'd watch the Three Stooges together, and he taught me how to throw a baseball and a football and how to hunt and how to fish and how to set up he taught me so many great things, and there was love in his heart, and that's why I was able to forgive him, because the bad stuff was really bad, but then when it wasn't being really bad, there was a lot of good, and so I realized that when I was on Biggest Loser, you have to put everything in perspective. You have to look at, put yourself in their shoes. What had they been through? Well, it was in Vietnam. So with the things he saw and the things he went through, he grew up with his own dad being, very similar to him. So in his mind, he was just being tough love. Now, that doesn't change the fact that he put his hands on me like he did, and the fact of what he did to my mom. And we don't have to get all into that. But I was able to forgive him because I do know that there's good in him. And I do know that God still loves him. Jesus still loves him, even though he did all these bad things. At the end of the day, he had a lot of good in him too. And the biggest for me was whenever I got out there with my, when we was talking about my mom and we was talking about the head doctor at Biggest Loser, come up, Dr. Hogan, I call him Hulk. But he looked at me and said, Vinny, you got to forgive your mom. I'm like, what do you mean I got to forgive my mom? You got to forgive your mom. I'm like, I love my mom. He goes, well, according to this test that they have you take this big test, that aptitude test, according to this test, you love women, you respect women, but you don't trust women. I was like, how can you tell that? He goes, well, we ask you the same question like 7 different ways, and we can tell by the ways that you answer them, your personality traits and blah, blah, blah. He said, so we can tell that you don't you put that on mute. You can tell by the questions that you ask, we can tell, the way you feel about people. I was like, okay. I was like, well, I love my mom. You're wrong, blah, blah, blah. Well, then about 3 weeks in, after getting my butt kicked for 3 weeks, all your physical walls are down.
Right.
And it was NFL week, and I'd already got to meet Tim Tebow, which was one of the most inspirational people I ever met. And, they say never meet your heroes, but if you can meet Tim Tebow, meet him because he's awesome. But, the next thing I know, they come over to me and start talking to me while I'm on the treadmill, and I'm tired as crap, tired AF. And I just broke down and started saying, everything that happened to me and why it happened and why I was mad at my mom and all these other things. And then he come up, now that was to adult vet, but then he come up to me after thing, he goes, oh, by the way, you still got to forgive your mom. Wow. And then I broke down and I said, why should I forgive her? Why should I forgive her for all the things that she let me go through? And he goes, you're a Christian, right? And I said, yeah. He goes, why should God forgive you for putting Jesus on the cross? I'm like, I didn't put Jesus on the cross. He goes, you ever committed a sin? And I said, well, yeah. He goes, he died for your sins. So you might as well have been hammering that nail in just the same as anybody else. Wow. And I was like, boy, it got to me. And he goes, let's put it in perspective. He goes, why don't you tell me a little bit about your mom's story? I was like, okay. I said, well, she 3 years old. Her mom died giving birth to my aunt. Dad left and went up to Chicago. She was raised by my granny and worked at Mary's Bridal making wedding dresses. Didn't really have a whole lot of money. Lived in a tiny little 800 square foot cinder block home in the middle of Marsh Creek. Had one bathroom, like you said, and 2 bedrooms, which one was my granny's bedroom, and the 3 girls slept in the other bedroom. Didn't really have anything. Got pregnant by the time she was 15. Had my brother. Guy divorced her and went to the Navy and left. And my granny made them get married, by the way. Shotgun wedding. Happens in Tennessee.
Sure does.
Literally.
Yeah.
Met my dad one night crying in her sorrows at a bar she probably shouldn't have been at. And she was 18 years old, got pregnant, had me by the time she was 19, had my sister by the time she was 20, same dad. So by 21, 20 years old, whatever, she's raising 3 kids. She split from my dad. He didn't split from her, but she's raising 3 kids. Well, she meets this guy. She goes, well, tell me about the guys. And his name's Randy. I was like, okay, well, what did he do? I said, well, he was a former Navy SEAL. He was in Vietnam. He was this, he was that. I said, he was terrible to us. He beat us. He goes, did he beat her? And I said, yeah. He's like, okay, so your mom has y'all 3 kids. She has no real education. She had quit high school quit school when she was 15. She had, the kids at an early age. Never had her mama. Never really had her daddy. Had a grandma that was there who was pretty much working all the time. He's like, and then he got married to this guy who could give you food in your belly and a roof over your head. Got beat up every night herself, but you also started getting beat up. He said she was probably getting beat up long before you ever were. He's like, so maybe you can understand that she was giving you the basic things that you needed, which was food in your belly and a roof over your head, and she was willing to take that beating in order to keep that going for you. Mm-hmm. He goes, and that doesn't mean it was right, He said, but as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, 23-year-old mom who's got 3 kids and has no other plan and no education, she was doing the best she could with what she had. Yeah. And when he told me all that, I didn't forgive her right away, obviously, but that really started weighing on my mind of like, man, you do got to put yourself in other people's shoes. So I was able to do that now with most any situation I've ever been in where I was truly mad at someone, which I don't get mad very easy. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. But I've been able to put myself in their shoes and say, well, wait a second, before I go off the handle here, because they're outside of traffic, you're going to get my worst. But let me just put myself in their shoes because maybe they see it differently than I do. I think even in this world, we all grew up different. If you grew up in Perry County, Tennessee, in the middle of the woods like I did with nothing around you, you only know what you know. Mm-hmm. You don't understand what somebody went through that lives in Southside Chicago or out in L.A. or up in New York or, in the middle of Missouri somewhere in St. Louis or whatever. You only understand your tiny little town that you grew up in and all the things you went through. Mm-hmm. Now, same thing. They also, they don't understand that people that come from the city and things like that went through a lot of hard, bad things that were different. Like I never had to worry about somebody, well, other than my stepdad, somebody shooting at me at nighttime. I didn't have to worry about bullets flying through my wall or any of this kind of stuff. So you grow up differently, but you still have struggles. You still have things. Mm-hmm. But if we could all sit down and have a conversation, I think we'd all get along a lot better.
Oh, I so agree.
And we'd be able to compromise on our hardcore beliefs of like, not saying you compromise your morals, but you could be like, maybe I don't know as much about that as I think I do, Mm-hmm. Anyways, I got
Yeah.
off my high horse. Let's go back to you because I'll talk all day.
But that's good. But I think that's a really good point. And I think that kind of goes back to the very first thing you said. Why was I helping other people in that room? Well, I think we all have struggles, and we like to think that some people don't. But when you start getting to the nitty gritty of everybody's story, it is there in every single one of us. So who are we to judge other people? We might not agree with the decisions they're making or the paths they've taken, but we can't judge them because that's what's getting them to where they are today. And somebody had once said, if you stop somebody from hitting rock bottom, you are taking away their biggest lesson. If you keep saving them, they're not going to learn. And I am a fixer. I want to come in. I want to help. I want to fix. Yeah, you saw it. And so I've learned to just kind of step back a little and say, I'm going to let you fail, learn, and I'll be there to hold your hand and build you back up because it's important. And I'm there for the underdogs. I've been an underdog. Yeah. My life was so unstable growing up, so unstable. Thank God for it. Because now when I get stability, I'm like, this is nice and cozy.
Yeah.
You know, I can appreciate it more. I appreciate the struggles of other people. I can understand. We'd have a big rain in Tennessee and we'd put on our creek shirts. We called them crick shirts. And we'd just go cruising down the creek on our bellies on these mossy things. That was our adventure. We didn't go to the pools and ride down slides, and it would freeze. We'd pick up manure. We'd have manure fights. Like that's what we did to entertain ourselves as kids. We didn't have money.
That's why I have scars all over my head right now.
She's rednecking.
I'm rednecking.
She's ready to go to Perry County already.
So, you're
just 2 counties over.
I
So
know, baby.
you go to Fairview, you go to Hickman County.
We were Williamson, right on the cusp.
Yeah, but like I said, when you go from Fairview, you go to Hickman County, and Perry County is the next one over. So just 2 counties over.
But I was always this like city girl in this little southern girl's mindset. I don't know. So when I would go places and people would judge me immediately, or I'd wear my cowboy boots and like, I'll hear you say y'all. I sure do.
Yeah,
I sure do. I'm proud of it. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and it came in handy. When I first started going out to L.A., my brother moved out there and had a rock band, and I would go out there and people would be intrigued by me because of the way I talk, you know. And now back then, like I talk country now, but back then I'm, oh man, come on out there, dude. Now, I mean,
so
I've grown so much in my speaking.
Yes, right.
That I don't sound near as country. Now my brother, you talk to him, all Vince now, come on now, buddy. You know, he still talks just like that. So he didn't convert to the L.A. way of talking, speaking when he got out there, but no, I think it's what a great episode, you know, to kind of put things in perspective and the way that you're building and what you're doing. And like I said, the way you build up others, I think is awesome, but you're used to telling other people's stories.
That's why it's hard to tell my own sometimes.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about ourselves.
I know. It's easy to see other people. It's hard to see ourselves, which is why I think I love podcasts so much. I like seeing people. And if we ever get stuck on who we are or how to see ourselves, watch how you look at other people. What you see in other people is really just a reflection of what you see in yourself. And that's not just the negative, it's the positive too. Yeah. So if I say, wow, you've got such beautiful eyes, well, I'm just reflecting that I have pretty eyes. But we only see the negative parts, you know, like, oh, look at you. Well, that's the nasty you see in yourself. So hold up that mirror.
People are going to love it when I talk about them, because if I talk about them the way I talk about myself, woo! They're going to think they're the hottest thing in the world, son.
I know. You have such a beautiful voice, Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny is even when I was 500 pounds, and Jared used to joke, he goes, I feel like you had even more confidence when you were 500 pounds. I'm like, well, it's because I didn't really think about it. I mean, I didn't have to think about it. I was like, you couldn't hide 500 pounds. You know what I mean? But I think I always had God on my side of, here's a win, here's a win, here's a win. And I used all of those successes to hide the fact that I had all this pain from my childhood. And I would try to, a lot of people, they get addicted to drugs, alcohol, porn, whatever it is. I got addicted to success and sugar. So the 2 S's, success and sugar.
Air 5, baby.
Bam! I was like, man, if I can just accomplish this, then it's going to take away all my problems. And you realize that there's no amount of success you can have. It doesn't matter what goals you reach. And mine weren't money based. Mine was like, can I go get the record deal? Because you know how much harder it is to get a record deal than it is to start a company? Because you're starting a company, but you're starting a company that most likely is going to fail.
And it's your face.
There's no money in there's no money in it unless you succeed, you know? And so I just felt like, Miley Cyrus, It's the Climb, all those little things along the way that you're like, man, that's where you're finding your joy and your happiness. And you get to the top of that mountain, you're like, well, what's next? And I remember the day it hit me. We opened for ZZ Top at Sturgis at the Buffalo Chip for 40, 50,000 people, whatever it is out there, motorcycles revving up, I'm on the stage, and I was so excited about opening for ZZ Top all day long. And while we're on stage, I look over, and they're standing there. ZZ Top, all back when all three of them were still alive. But I look over there and they're standing there and they're watching us and they're like,
oh, how fun.
and I was like, dang it. This is amazing. This is the best day of my life. Nothing will ever top this. I had them signing. It was us and Buck Cherry and them, and I had them all sign my, my booklet that I have, which I don't even know where it's at anymore. Because I got back to the bus that night, and I sat down and I said, what do I got to look forward to now? That's done. That's over with. So now what? How am I going to top that experience? And that's when I came up with the idea to go to L.A. and audition for Dumb and Dumber 2 the first time they were going to make it before Jim Carrey bailed the first time. And I got out there and met with Cindy Fairley, and she said, oh, yeah, you're great. You're funny. You're this, you're that. She goes, but you need to lose some weight. And I was like, lose some weight? And I was like, what about, John Candy and all these other ones? She's like, yeah, they're like 300 pounds. You're 500 pounds. So you need to lose about 200 pounds just to be considered the big guy role. I was like, oh, crap. She says, now we can put you in the movies, but you'll be the fat guy that drives through, on a 10-speed and wrecks into the bushes or runs across the beach in a Speedo. And he goes, that happens. That's the slapstick comedy that you could go do. But if you want to be taken seriously, if you ever want to be a true actor and actually be in stuff and have a speaking part more than just one line where you're getting made fun of, she's like, I want that for you. She goes, I think you could be a Kevin, what's his name? Not Kevin Hart. Kevin James, She goes, I think you could be one of those type of guys if you really wanted to pour yourself into it. I fell out of love with Hollywood, but that's okay.
I know. Have you seen Quiet on Set yet?
I just started watching it.
What do you think?
I am mad for those kids. I loved some of those shows when I was a kid, but I watched that thing and I'm just like, man.
What's the name of it?
Quiet on Set.
Quiet
I've
on
worked
Set.
with some of those
Dark
people.
side of the 90s, kids 90s.
Yeah, I worked with some of those people. I'm like, ooh. It's good that some of that stuff is coming out.
You know what I think? I don't think any of those people started off with that in their brain. I think the devil gets in and finds a way to sneak into what little, cracks he can find, and then he just kicks the door open whenever he does.
And they want to know how bad you want it. I mean, I've worked on sets where I'm telling you, I questioned my existence. I thought, I am in trouble. I mean, I've been chewed out. I've been spoken to so poorly on some sets and then I've also worked with some of the greatest people, and I felt so safe. So I'm not going to say that Hollywood is this terrible place, because it's
there's
not.
great. There's good and bad everywhere you go.
But there needs to be accountability for the people who are in these upper positions that feel like they have all that control, that really just toxic spew on women, children, men, everybody, because they do exist.
That's probably why I had to be with Toby Keith, because he's like one of the best guys ever, and he was all about you being you. But I can imagine being on set and some little producer guy or girl comes up and starts cussing me out, and I'd have been like,
how bad do you want
hang on,
it?
I'm about to catch a case.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm about to jack somebody up.
And they do it in front of everybody, so where everyone's watching, and you're like, if I say something, and that fear, I wanted to be in Hollywood so bad that I accepted that kind of abuse. Not because I liked it, but because I thought, this is me paying my dues. This is what I have to do. I have to put up with this verbal abuse to be this PA on this American Express commercial with these tops. Like, this is me. I'm doing it. I'm living the dream. But then I'd go on another set, and it was not like that at all. So you have power in where you put yourself. You can pick and choose. And that's not just Hollywood. I know Hollywood is under a microscope, but it's not just Hollywood. It's every industry.
It's every industry.
Every industry.
I think for me, I could always handle somebody being, if their personality was naturally a little more dry, or they weren't as jovial as me and things like that. Because you have to understand how to read people. And, because you could definitely be the one that's in there pushing certain buttons that get reactions from people. Not you personally, just me, because I'm loud and big all the time. And, but you could definitely be that person. I see it.
Are we over time? Are we not allowed to?
Yeah,
you don't want us to keep talking? Come on, you don't like hanging out with us?
I'll give you an extra $30.
I'll throw you some home bucks.
Home bucks, baby. But what I can't handle is somebody that's utilizing their power to make somebody feel inferior or make you feel less than. Like, just because you've made it to a position in life of where, like, hey, I'm the director, or I'm this or that, that's great, and I'm glad. And you might be the greatest at that position. But if you make people feel like they're losers, like they're less than every single day, like, to me, your job as the director, is to teach that person how to be where you want them to be.
Exactly.
And if you do that and you teach them that, like, if I hired an employee at the resort, and I'm like, come in the first day, I expect him, hey, you better be the best canoe stacker that ever stacked a canoe.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. If you're truly great at what you do, and especially in that world, you're going to teach them to be better. You know,
I agree.
if you're building houses, like you got a guy that shows up and he's like, man, I have no clue what I'm doing. That's great because you got a person you can mold and teach them exactly the way you want it to be done.
Yep.
It means there's more work up front, but it's going to be done the way you want it to be done because they're only going to know the way to do it the way that you show them.
And that's why on our sets we like to be a collaboration. I'm never going to deny somebody's. If you have a voice and you think it could be done better, I'd love to hear it. I want to know because sometimes I can't see things that other people can. I welcome it.
Yeah.
Some people are like, you stepping on my toes. Like this one producer or director, he asked me my opinion. We were in an audition room and he baited me. He's like, I really want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear, tell me. And I gave him my opinion. And then that door closed when those actors left. Oh my God. How dare you voice your opinion? I mean, you could hear him miles away ripping me a new one. And I was like, but you asked my opinion. He goes, just because I asked for it doesn't mean you should give it. And I thought, okay.
This is so confusing.
I was so confused.
Don't answer the questions I asked you to answer.
It was so
hey, answer
confusing.
this question.
Seriously, it was horrible.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's not making me a victim. I continued to work with him.
Yeah.
But I got to learn about what I didn't want to do, what I
See,
don't want my sets to be.
That's cool that you just said that. I mean, I think a lot of times, one of the things I noticed on the Quiet On set, there was one in particular family, and this wasn't anything that was sexual. It was just that, you know, she said that Dan Schneider was toxic and that he was rude and he was this and that, but she kept coming back for another season. And it was her kid. She was bringing him back. Well, I really didn't like the way that he talked to my son. I was like, well, then why'd you bring your kid back? That was on you. You were in control of that. And then they went into just talking about, well, you know, that was how we were paying our bills and this and that. I was like, well, that's just you exploiting your kid. So you didn't have to take that kid back to be on set.
Right.
You know, and I understand, like, you know, I don't know their life. I don't know their bills and stuff like that. But to me, it's like you did have a choice in that moment.
You always have a choice.
You had a choice to get up and walk out. You had a choice to leave. You were the mom. The son, you know, he's 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. He's trying to make you proud. He's trying to be good at what he's doing. He's excited that he's got a job on Nickelodeon or whatever. You could have made the choice to say, no, my son ain't going to be talked to that way. You're not going to degrade my son like that.
And that's every industry.
Yeah.
You have a choice.
Yeah.
Corporate America. I was telling my girlfriend last night because she was saying the similar thing. Like, I'm so burnt out. I'm overworked. It's been 6 months since they've given me this job promotion. They keep talking about it. I said, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? You need to get in that office and say, this is my job position. This is what I expect. This is how long you have to do the work for them. And then give them a timeline and know your worth. I think people know their worth, but they're not confident in what that worth is. And they're willing to continue to sacrifice.
Comes back to the fear.
It comes back to the fear. Because that's the thing. She's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to find a better job out there. I said, not with that mindset, you're not. But what if you do?
Yeah.
What if you do?
Yeah, so in the music industry, I've always thought it was so crazy to me because, you know, entertainment industry in a whole, as a whole. In a hole too.
In a hole. I
mean,
mean,
both those things. In a hole and on a hole. But there was I won't say any names because he was a good dude. He just got a little drunk and got the mouthing off one night. But
we've all been there.
He made a remark to the girl that was in our band, who's a very beautiful girl named Crystal Hoyt. He made a remark to her and basically said, well, if Crystal will give me head, I'll give him 21 spins a week. I mean, spins on your song, which, you know, you need 7 a week to be considered a true ad and all this other stuff. And at that point, I'm like, why would anybody not just be like, hey, I got you now. You just screwed up. We got you. Like, as soon as they make that statement, at what point, and especially if there's other witnesses. Now, I understand things happen behind closed doors and rooms that you're by yourself or this or that. That's a whole different thing. But right in front of people, he said that. I'm like, dude, you got to give us 60 spins, or you got to give us 72 spins a week.
Did you tell him this?
No, I didn't say anything because I was 23 years old. I was sitting there. I was like, at first I wanted to punch the guy in the face, but then I'm trying to remember, like, okay, is he joking? Is he not joking? I mean, that was a little, you know. But before I could, you know, and Crystal, boy, she was about to let him have it. She's from Louisiana and she's a spitfire. But before I could say anything or Crystal could say anything, our radio regional goes, "Don't say anything. I got this." And back then they had a thing called the back pages. And
I know the back pages.
She went and got a prostitute from that area that favored Crystal in some ways. Not near as pretty as Crystal, but if you got the Wish version of Crystal, and had her show up and right in front of everybody. And they were filming a movie at our show. They needed a big crowd and all this other kind of stuff. This is on the Toby tour. And this woman comes in and walks up to him in front of everybody, grabs him by his junk, says, I heard that you can give these guys 21 spins a week if you just get your dick sucked. And, I mean, he clammed up. He was freaked out. He said, no, I was just kidding. I was just this. And of course, he was scared to death now because he knew he messed up. We did get 21 spins a week. Nobody had. She did not have to do any sexual acts. She got paid whatever for showing up. Obviously, we wouldn't be prostituting. And she left with money in her pocket. We got 21 spins a week, and he learned a valuable lesson without having to lose his entire life, job, family, everything else over a stupid remark that he made when he was drunk. And to me, it was the best outcome because the last thing I would want to do is cost him everything in his life over one remark he made when he was drunk. Now, pretty given that he probably had said something like this before because he felt comfortable enough.
Right.
He was drunk. I think if you'd met the guy, you'd know that probably never worked out for him. But it was just, I don't want to ruin somebody's life over a mistake, Now, if he walked up and grabbed Crystal in some, obscene way or tried to force his cell phone her in a room by herself and I found out about it, I'd have jack slapped him, what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like he ran off at the gums, and he learned a great lesson that night.
I think people freeze up
Yeah.
in moments. They're like, I wish I would have said something. I wish I would have stood up for
Yeah.
you. I wish I would have. So if there's anything we can teach our youth, it's stand up right then. Don't wait to the regret when you get home to say, I wish I coulda or woulda or I woulda. Don't get to that point. Say it right then, and don't be afraid of it. Adults make mistakes, and I think kids feel like adults are adults and we have to respect them, but adults are just big kids. So if kids could step up a little bit for themselves or teach the kids to have voice.
And I know we got to get to the end here, but one of the things that really stood out to me, I'm getting there. One of the things that really stood out to me when I came to do the speak off, I had wanted, when I first started, they said, who do you want to talk to? I was like, well, I said, I want to help kids who feel unworthy, kids that have been through childhood trauma. That's who I want to speak to and impact. And Benny, did you meet Benny? Benny's awesome.
Through our group.
We're good buddies. I love Benny, and we've stayed in contact a lot since that. But he was the one that said to me, he said, Vinny, he said, your story is awesome. He said, and it's going to help a lot of kids. He goes, but just remember, every one of those kids that went through childhood trauma grow up to become adults who went through childhood trauma. And that 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 6-year-old kid is still living inside that, big person's body that still needs help to get over it. He's like, so don't limit your speaking to only being for the youth of right now, because there's so many people that need to hear the message.
So true.
And that stuck out to me.
Yep.
So.
And everybody has trauma. Nobody gets out of this world without it.
Amen.
And so if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I don't have any trauma. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You just it might not be as traumatic as what some of us have gone through.
But it's still the worst thing
still
you've
trauma.
ever been through. You only have to compare to what you've been through.
Yep. And I tell people we all have those break points in our story. And if you could tap into those moments and not be the victim, which I think you just did a really great job explaining your struggles without victimizing yourself. You were like, I was here. This is what I experienced. This is how I got out of this moment in my life.
Yeah.
And here's how I can help you if you're in a similar situation.
Yeah.
That's the script. And it's not even a script as like a negative thing. It's just that's the thing. That's what's going to capture people. But if you start going down and down and down in my life and it's so heavy, people who are already feeling heavy are going to be like, oh God, this is awful.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
You got to bring up, you've got to keep it here, explain it, relatable, and then boom, I'm the hero.
Yeah.
And I think you do that beautifully. And that explains a lot as to how you got to the top 10, because you've really captivated that story. You've used it to help catapult you to where you are today.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, really.
When I was in the Hope Zavara section where you had to pull your time,
she's awesome.
And when I got to that part, so I pulled 1 minute. So I'm like, it's great. I have a speech ready for 1 minute. But my 1 minute speech just kind of talked about, I went through all this hard stuff, and that's led me to want to teach people to not, to not let it, not be a victim of your circumstance, but be a victor of your circumstance. And she's like, that's great. She goes, basically, I just heard a story. She goes, I'm sad right now. She goes, I heard this story about a guy that watched his mom put a gun to her head and pull the trigger. She goes, and then you just told me not to be a victim of my circumstance, but you didn't tell me that. How? What did you do? What's your business? I'm like, I don't really have a business. And I mean, I had my business, but it was in my 2 minute speech, not my 1 minute speech. And like I said, I created that business the night before, Overall You, because
so good.
It was originally going to be what I was going to call my podcast. When I first was going to do a podcast before we ever had this one, I was going to call it Overall You, and it was about helping your mind, body, and soul. How do you create your entire self to be better? And so I was sitting there that night, and I was talking to my buddy Richie Coletti. He likes to be called Richie. He says the judge calls him Richard. I said, we just call you Dick. But anyways, I'm talking to him. He goes, Vinny, he said, I think overall when you told me about your podcast, he goes, I think that's your business. He's like, you're going to teach people how to work out. You're going to teach people how to get their mindset right. You're going to teach people how to overcome things. And, you're going to teach them about God. He goes, you're, mind, body, and soul, overall you. He goes, I think you should do that. He goes, just make that your business. And I said, yeah, but I don't actually have that. He goes, you don't have to have it. Mm-hmm. He goes, Grant Cardone ain't going to go and look at your business tomorrow. He goes, just get it down. So I sit there that night before we had to come and speak that morning. I just went over in my head. I was like, overall you, or, why overalls? Well, because it's a sign of hard work. And trust me, it's going to be hard work,
I loved it.
I had this whole thing put together.
And
then when I got in there to the Grant Cardone part, because I did different on the last one, mm-hmm. Grant goes, why are you pitching me a business? Why are you pitching me a business? Because I loved it. He goes, I love you. I love the authenticity. But why are you pitching me a business? We're not here to pitch a business. I want to hear you speak. Mm-hmm. And I looked over at Pete Vargas. I'm like, because this dude told me all week long that I had to have a business that I was pitching.
Not.
Yeah,
what
I did
did
too.
Pete say?
So Grant goes, I love it. I'm all in. Love it. I don't know why you pitched me a business, but I love it. He goes, and then Elena was like, I love you. You're so authentic. And she goes, I just love your spirit and all this other stuff. And Pete goes, it's a no for me. He's like, I just don't get it. I'm like, hang on, I'm a weight loss guy like you. I'm a childhood trauma guy like you. I've lost and got the same surgery or even a more intense surgery than you just got. I was like, we basically lived I love Jesus like you. I was like, what do you not get?
What is it about you that he's pushing?
I don't know.
Did you ever ask him?
I didn't get a chance to. He was always so business and trying to sell me. Mm-hmm. He did say, come up to me at the end of the thing. He's like, you need to be in Speakers on Demand. Grant's not going to let you on these stages unless you go through our program.
I disagree.
That's just what he said.
I understand. Well, he's got a business. He's got sales to make.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that. I told him I said I'm still not going to spend video.
I know.
I didn't tell him that, but I was like, I love you, Pete. I actually enjoyed Pete. I thought he was good. I enjoyed Pat. I thought Pat was good. But Grant did come up to me after the lights and the cameras were off before he left that day, and he come up to me. He goes, I just want you to know. He said, I had you going. He goes, and I expect to see you back. He goes, don't let this be the last time I see you.
Are you going to do it again?
I don't know. Maybe.
Let's do it. I'll do it with you.
I mean,
if you're going to meet cool people like this every time, then you got to do it again.
Well, you got to make it, though. I think I can make it. But
you would make it.
But, so I'm just being candid because we're on the podcast and it don't matter.
I love authenticity.
But Claudette, yeah. She's Elena's right-hand girl.
Yep.
Several of the others have all been through Speakers on Demand and spent the 40, 50, 60, 100 grand on those programs. I think the only one maybe that was in the finals that didn't spend the money was Oric in the final 5. And I think, but he was kind of just one of those deals where he had went around and won around. He had won over the crowd by talking to him and telling them his story and all that kind of stuff in between. Like he talked to every single person. He was so smart to do that because he made every single person a fan of his before he ever walked up there.
Yeah.
And even though the first time I heard him speak, I was blown away when he first told his story. And I was like, dude, I love this guy. And I voted on him to actually get his golden ticket. I was one of the ones that voted for him to get his golden ticket. But then he got up there in the end, and I just felt like it was more, what do you call it, like manufactured. Mm-hmm. He was like, he went into straight preaching mode, and on this day God saw, and I was like, that ain't what you spoke about. That ain't the part that thing that you told me. That ain't even the same story. In fact, a lot of this story is different than what I first heard. Now, your story can change, not necessarily, the facts were still the same, but the way you told the story had changed. And so when I learned all that, and basically it happened because somebody ended up getting a little drunk that night and spilling the beans to a bunch of us while we were sitting there, and he just said, Vinny, I can't say his name, I don't want to get him in trouble, but you should have been there. And I told him, I said, honestly, I don't think I should have been. I said, not in the top 3, maybe in the top 5. I said, but top 3, I thought for sure that, what's his name? Big guy. Brian? Big muscled up dude. That should have threw the mic when he got done, but of course he would have got in trouble.
Yeah.
Brian Josie.
He was good.
He was, he didn't miss anything when he was up there. I love the guy that talked about the relationships and
the male, was it the men?
Yeah.
The men one, he was great.
He was good. I thought Danielle was great. I thought she did a good job. She stumbled a little bit in the beginning, but she recovered great. I thought she definitely, from all the females that were up there, I thought she was probably the best one of all the females. I thought for sure. And then I actually liked I like Nepstead. I thought he was good. He was just so polished. Everything was perfect.
Was he the knee?
The guy with the knee.
Yeah,
and
I
the,
liked
and the
him.
suit.
He was in my group. I really liked him.
I thought he was
a
great. I
lot.
thought he was endearing.
I liked his speech better than he did. But I heard GrowthCon was tricky for people because the energy was different. I don't know.
I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I definitely. Just keep in mind it's being filmed for TV.
Yeah.
So at some point somebody has to. I think when he got there, he called him Vest. It's like he goes, he goes, I don't even know why you're up here. You shouldn't even come. I mean, like Grant was pretty hard on, but I keep in mind it's for TV, and that drama part of things. But the guy that I really liked was he went first, Tom.
Oh yeah, Tom.
Tom killed it,
Yeah, Tom
But now
great.
he spoke about toxic masculinity. It was a very controversial subject, and I
Grant
understand.
loved him apparently too.
Grant,
he was in our group.
Grant loved him.
I liked him a lot.
Grant gave Nepstead a 9. He gave Brian Jose 8.5, and gave me an 8. And that's why he come up to me and said, I had you in the top 3 or whatever. And
you could have.
But I also understood, like, I did change some in order to fit the narrative a little bit. I changed my business pitch at the end and didn't put overall you in there the same way because we weren't supposed to. But
I loved how you did it.
I felt good about it. I felt good.
What could have been helpful is next to people's names if they would have just given a sentence of what their speech was, because we didn't know people's names on the top 10 or 15 that he had up there, or 12. And so I forgot, and everyone was talking about Oric, and he was great, but I think there were great speakers amongst the other 9 of you.
I mean,
we just didn't know.
I don't like the
names.
thing where you try to make people repeat something to you. Like, to me, that's like you're asking for cheap. And not that Oric did that. I think Oric was being genuine when he did his, but I think there was some times. And what was the girl's name in the wheelchair? She was so sweet.
Oh, I know. She didn't do so great.
Well, she
screamed.
She did, and then she didn't have the
it.
power in her voice when she did it, and all that.
She had so much potential. She was
I know. When I was sitting
beautiful.
backstage talking to her, I'm like, this girl was awesome.
I assumed that I wasn't in her group, but I assumed that her speech was much better the first couple of rounds.
Yeah.
And
I think she got in the lights and lost a little bit. And she was a pageant. She's like a big time pageant coach.
Is she? She's so cool. Her story's great. She's beautiful.
Yeah, she was awesome. I mean, everybody that was there, could go speak on any stage today.
Yep. It stretched. I mean, did you feel like it stretched you a lot? Did you have to face things of yourself that were just like, oh my gosh?
Not necessarily. What I had to face was more like I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I was so used to the stage always being set for me to just get up there and be me, And this one, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, now I got to create a business. Now I got to do this. And Hope told me, she goes, nobody wants to hear your sob story, Vinny.
Right.
And I was like, dang. I was like, okay. She goes, and then that's kind of where she left it. I wouldn't really know other advice. I'm like, nobody wants to hear your sob story. She's like, and apparently Danny Brazel had to fight really hard for me, and Jimmy both fought really hard to get me to be in that final, the 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I said, whenever they were doing the back and forth, when Grant said, I love it, it's a yes for me. And then Pete goes, you really like that? He goes, yeah, I freaking loved it. He goes,
yeah, you're definitely Grant's style.
He was awesome. He was, passionate. He was authentic. He was great. He's like, he goes, I just don't see it. I just don't like it. He goes, well, good thing your opinion don't matter.
I really have a lot of respect for Grant and Elena. I know they get a lot of crap.
They were super nice to me.
They can spot BS a mile away.
Yeah.
And I really respect that. And they're blunt and they're direct. And some people don't welcome that because it's hard for them. Like, well, who do they think they are? Well, they are where they are because they've earned that place. Yeah. And if you can go in there and soak up what it is that they're actually trying to help you see in yourself, it'll change your life.
Yeah.
But people don't go in with that mindset. They go in with that chip on the shoulder. Like, you have to give something to me because I paid for this. And who do you think you are? And they're already in the room with that attitude. And Grant's like, change your mindset. Don't come up in here with that mindset.
Yeah.
I didn't even know, and this is the end of it, I promise.
Maybe.
I didn't even know. Maybe not. I didn't even know.
Just don't even look at it.
This will be 2 episodes now.
Give him a microphone. Let him join us.
I think he started the timer late. But you know what? I didn't realize. I didn't even know there was like this group of 10X folks that had done a bunch of stuff. They were all like friends. I didn't know that. And this girl walks up to me and she goes, so who do you help? And I was like, I help people feel worthy. And that's after I'd kind of went through a little bit. She goes, yeah, but how do you help them? I was like, well, I said, I use my story, my life, the things I've been through, this and that. And blah. She goes, yeah, but what's your business? And I was
those are
like,
3 different questions.
Yeah.
So she shouldn't be asking you with attitude.
Well, and she was there competing as well.
Yeah.
And I was talking to David Williams at the time, and we were having a conversation, and she kind of just walked right in the middle. She's like, so do you have something else you're going to wear tomorrow This is the day before we were speaking in front
Ew.
of Brent. I was like, yeah. I said, I have another pair of overalls. I said, but I got a button-up shirt with watermelons on it.
There you go.
But I ended up wearing my blue shirt that showed my muscles better or whatever.
You obviously threatened something within her that
I
made
had
her-
no clue.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there. I was like, what do you do? And she went and asked something with finance and this and that. And I was like, oh, cool. I was like, she's like, so have you even been through 10X stages? I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Snobby.
She's like, have you done any of the whatever? I was like, 10X stuff. I was like, I don't think so. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought 10X was the name of his brand. I didn't even know that was an option. She's like, so you mean to tell me like you've got a golden ticket? And this before she had gotten the golden ticket, which I think she paid like $4,500 for or something like that.
Did she make it far?
I mean, she got her golden ticket.
Did she make it to top 30? How about that?
Well, she made top 30 because you paid for that golden ticket.
Well, so that's why I was.
She was in the top 30 with us?
No. She didn't make the top 30.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay.
She got to speak in the speak off and go through all the stuff.
Cool.
But she literally was like, and she was saying that to me, and David Williams kind of goes, he's like, what's your point? He's like, he's going to be him, you be you, da da da. She's like, I just think it's just kind of crap that there's anybody would be allowed in that hadn't been through any of the programs.
I beg your pardon. It's not an echo chamber.
I was just like, I didn't even know there was a program. She goes, well, how did you get your golden ticket? I was like, I went online and spoke on a computer in front of, with a bunch of people in a room, and I got a golden ticket. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know that there was a thing,
Well, good
But
for
she was,
you.
boy, she's madder than hell about it though.
Well, good. Let her carry that anger. It's not for you to carry.
Well, at the end, she come up to me and she's like, you did a great job. And, at the end of it, and gave me a hug. I gave her a hug and said, wish you well and all that kind of stuff. But, it was,
I'll pray for you.
Yeah, you need Jesus.
I was a
let that
little
anger go.
taken back, but but old David came to the rescue. Like you said, sometimes you just freeze up. You don't
Some
know what to
people
say.
need to speak up
I'm
for
like, is
you.
this girl mad at me because I got a golden ticket? I've never met this girl in my life.
Yeah.
She doesn't know anything about me. I don't know anything about her, but she's mad at me for some reason. So
See, I used to be, and I still am a little, but that people pleaser thing,
Yeah.
like, I want to make sure people are okay. And that's where the past titles, and this is kind of a chop up of what I might talk in my next one, but we all have labels of ourselves, like control freak, perfectionism, people pleaser. And I used to hear people say those things about me, and I would clam up like, oh my God, I am those things. Something's wrong with me. And I've learned there's nothing wrong with me. Being a people pleaser means I have great customer service, and I'm going to make sure my clients have everything they need. Being a perfectionist means you show up on my set, you don't have to worry about details. If your hair's in a wrong spot or your necklace is not turned all the way, I'm going to notice those little things.
Yeah.
And I'm a control freak, which means you're going to have every single organized moment to the finest detail. So when you show up, you don't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am those three things,
Yeah.
and you're welcome for them.
I want to be on her set because she's going to give me Tom Brady hair.
Heck
Oh, yeah, you already got Tom
baby,
Brady
let's
here.
go.
This is not Tom Brady.
the old
getting
saying,
there.
I think it was Brad Lee that I heard say it first. I don't know if somebody else said it before him, but he said, you don't change the way you treat people, you change the people you treat.
Yes.
And I thought that was an interesting way to look at it, because I'm a people pleaser for sure. Like
But there's nothing wrong with
I want
it.
everybody to be happy, and I want everybody to have this. At some point, you do have to realize that you're not going to be able to please
No,
everybody.
You're
you know?
not. And I'm an effort friend. I give effort to my friendships. If you're in my circle, you're in my circle forever. And if you leave me, I take it very personally. And I'm having to learn that if you leave or you step out or we don't align anymore, it's not a direct reflection of who I am.
No.
It's just sometimes certain people come in our lives at the right time, and there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe something I'm doing doesn't flow with what you're doing, or we're not on the same vibrational moment, and that is okay. But you better believe I'm going to fight for you before you go. I'm going to cling on and be like,
Yeah.
are you sure this is what you want? Because once you
Or
step
she might
out,
fight you before you go.
I might fight you a little bit. I might
Like-
get you Tom Brady hair and
Yeah.
then mess it up just to
Hey.
spite you. No,
Yeah.
but I don't think that there's a lot of competition, and I think
Yeah.
people get this competitive nature with others. Like the girl probably felt she needed to compete with you.
Which is weird because we look nothing alike.
Yes.
We weren't even. We
But
wouldn't
what
even
if
have
she
been
had-
because they're casting for a TV show.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
What if she had collaborated with you and been like,
I
"Oh,
know.
that's crazy!
Yeah.
You got be curious.
Yeah.
Don't go in with this. Meh.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Once I realized, I think that really helped me because of being on TV before. Once I realized, like, oh wait, they're filming this for TV.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, which I was going to be me no matter what, but I leaned more into my character.
Yeah.
I leaned more into the big all shucks country boy, because I knew like, oh, they're casting for TV,
Mm-hmm.
so they need a single mom, and they need the black guy, and they need the big old country boy, and they need the hero, and they need the person that was a drug addict, and they need all these different types of people because they want to tell a whole story when they put this out on Grant Cardone television and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So it was, once I understood that, I could see like, okay, this is what they're looking for. And Danny Brazel, he straight up told us, he goes, right now they're looking for more female and ethnic speakers. I mean, he straight up told.
He was great too.
He told us that, right? Oh, he was awesome.
Oh my God, he was such a good cheerleader.
He was, to me, I think him and Jimmy, was it Jimmy?
Mm-hmm, I think so.
They were the best at helping me understand, oh, okay, I understand what I need to do here. And later on when I talked to Dan, he goes, the reason I didn't want to give you a whole lot because I didn't want to change what you were doing. He goes, I enjoyed you so much that I just kind of said, yeah, man, great job, because that's the way I felt. He goes, I didn't feel like I wanted to lead you in a different path of where you were going. He goes, I felt like you told your story well. It felt authentic. He said, the only thing I think that you could have done better is, because they were still telling us to pitch a business at this point, is he goes, you could have added a little bit more about like, where can I find your business and this and that. He goes, but you're not allowed to pitch that. You can't, when we were on camera, we weren't allowed to do a call to action.
Yeah, Grant didn't want that.
Yeah, Grant did not want that on the thing. He didn't want nobody getting no freebies. Because I was going to get up there and like, follow me at Big Vinny Official so that I could get everybody, the 130 people in the room, so I could get them all to follow me.
Grant would have been like, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah. But luckily that girl went around at the end of the thing and made the whole WhatsApp thing.
Oh, that was so great, right?
With that being said, I want to lead to this because I know we got to go.
Yes.
Because Jim's giving me the look. Look at that look. Remember when we said he might fight you? He's going to fight me to get out of here.
See if a resting Jim face.
First off, I hope you will continue to come back and be on when you're in town, and I hope you find land and property here. And if you need a good mortgage broker or somebody that can get you the money, I know a guy, and I'm officially referring you to him. So come spend millions of dollars, and I'll get my referral fee. But no, I hope that you'll come back. I enjoy what you're doing, and I will refer people to you. For this mastermind that we're doing, I think it'd be great to have you out to do that. So before I close this out, will you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you and utilize your services if they so need?
Yes, of course. We're My Tai Media and My Tai Productions. Do you put the links in your YouTubes and all that, or do you want me to spell it all out for you?
I just talk.
Okay, yeah. We're My Tai Media, MAITIE Productions or media @gmail.com. Just keep it simple. We're on social pages. If you need help telling your story and staying ahead of your competitor, getting some good, sexy content, reach out.
Ooh, sexy. Tom Brady hair.
Sold me there.
Sexy content. Not just content, sexy content. Well, content that converts. I should say that. Because you're not just going to make content that you're going to spend money. You want to make money on your investment.
That means it finishes.
It does.
CC.
Yep. So content that converts. Give us a call. Shoot us an email. I'd love to help you out.
All right. With that being said, y'all, that's the end of this episode of the podcast, Refine Life. We did put this special episode together and special day in, thanks to old Jim over here.
Thanks, Jim.
For letting us come in on a day that we weren't supposed to come in because you live out of town and you were stopping through today. But Stefani Baca, we appreciate you. With that being said, give us 5 stars. Make sure you share us with a friend. 5.5, 5. I got 5, I got 5 3/4, 5.75. Give us the 5 stars. Make sure you share, like, comment, leave us a review, all that good stuff. If you don't like what you heard today, well, you're wrong. So there you go. Yeah, as Jim says, stick it up your. That's the end.
Did it cut when you said stick it up here, or is it still going?
This one.
It ain't a passion that we learn, we were born with it. Every